Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 93. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the 4x4 risk assessment matrix. In the previous episode, we talked about the 3x3 risk assessment matrix. Again, it would be awesome if we could tackle every hazard that we ever found as quick as possible, but time and money are just not endless. So we have to come up with a system where we can say we get the most bang for the buck. What are going to be the things that we work on and the things that we don't work on? And by don't work on, it doesn't mean that we bury our heads in the sand. We add it to a list because as we knock off things of a higher level, higher consequence, other ones now rise to the surface. So it doesn't mean that we don't address it. That means that it's just lower on the list as far as hazard and severity and all that good stuff. But let's go ahead and get into it. This is going to continue our risk assessment series here. We're going to be talking for this next couple of ones about just how do we go about doing this. And some of them are really easy, some of them are really hard. But the key is find something that works for you and your company so it's not some weird, strange animal if it's something that's being introduced for the first time. So let's just get right into the four by four. So it's just a way of categorizing and your likelihood and severity. You'll also hear terms called like impact and consequence and frequency and all that. Whatever works for you and your company. Because again, it's not some strange, scary thing. So the three by three was a very short and easy one, just to kind of get everybody started. When we get into the 4x4, it adds a little more details to it. It doesn't mean it's harder, but that's just another way, another level of going back and saying what you will and you won't address. And this is also what helps out a company, of course, whatever system is used out there, for them to say what is and what is not acceptable as far as risk. So let's just look right at a few examples here. Let's get into the first one where we talk about the things like likelihood and consequence. So with likelihood, you'll also hear where at times it's called probability, frequency, all that good stuff then. And with severity, it can also be called consequence and impact. There's a lot of interchangeable words out there. So let's look at the first one here. So the likelihood or probability, it can be on a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being very low, 2 low, 3 is moderate, and 4 is high. And when we look at the probability, of course, it kind of follows exactly what the words say. It's a very low probability that it's going to happen, or very high probability. When we look at severity or consequence, again, it kind of goes from very low, low, moderate, and high. This is when it starts to talk about harm and damage and all that good stuff. So when something happens, is it a very low, that minimal harm and damage, or is it going to be a high or a significant harm and damage? When we look at the matrix, on this one here, we're going to add in just a little math then. So every for folks who cannot see this, of course, what we have is the likelihood and severity in a 4x4. And so, of course, 4x4 is going to equal 16 individual blocks in. So when we look at the 16 blocks, we're going to, as we add in some math, the very low and low is going to be in green. Very low is going to be a 1, low is 2, that moderate is 3, and high is 4. So when we think about it, if you did a 4 times 4 is 16, so that's a very high risk. Or if you did a 1 times 1, it's going to be very low, which is going to be a 1. And it kind of follows color pattern. So anything that's a low is going to be in green. Medium low is going to be a yellow. Medium high is going to be an orange. And then finally high is just is going to be in red. This is just a way to go back and to look at color coding and adding some math in when we look at the matrix here. And so what we have is those four separate levels in. So a very low risk is going to represent that it's a very high that it will not occur, and if it does occur, the minimum harm. Low, of course, means that there's a very low chance it's going to happen, and it's going to cause some minimal harm then. Moderate, of course, moderate chance of happening with moderate harm. High chance of happening with high harm then. Let's go over a couple of practical examples then. So this isn't anything that's going to be a right or wrong answer. This is just kind of for us to kind of sit down and think that now that we've been introduced to this, we have the four by four, the matrix then. As in a lot of things with safety, we have to look at the nuances. Which are going to be at my facility, and what have you already put in place, or what things have you not put in place. So let's look at a couple of practical examples. So the first one here, we're going to be drilling some carbon fiber plates. So when we do that, we want to look at, well, what do we have in place already? Are we exhausting the environment, or is it that we know that we have to put people in PPE of some sort then? So again, the nuance that we have to look at for our work site, and we have to get input from the workers. So I can write fantastic lines and tell everybody exactly what the risk is and do the math, but if it's not really based on what the guys do out there in the field or the factory floor or the chemical lab, it just really isn't something based on a real scenario. Let's look at the second one here. So changing oil on company vehicles then. So when we think about changing oil, is it going to be done in a very controlled environment inside of a maintenance shop, or does the guy have to lay down some mats and things and crawl underneath a vehicle in the mud over at a field site then? So again, we have two different ways, and that's why that we have to look at the nuance then when we go ahead and do this then. So the third one, driving the front end loader. So we have to look at the consequence and severity. Also in this, of course, we want to also look at how do we train people at the same time then. Some people are coming to the workforce already trained by somebody else, and other people are showing up really depending on us to train them the right way to go back and do this stuff. On the fourth one, we're going to be cutting granite countertops then. So you can think about it, are we doing it in a controlled fashion right at the factory itself, and we're using water saw, we're doing all that stuff, or is it something that they're going to do in a dry environment then with the dry saw then, right? I mean, how are we really going back and doing this and protecting the people? And in these practical examples, there is no right or wrong answer. These are just things for us to think about and the nuances that we have. And also think about a couple of the scenarios that you have at your company, and then what you would do to go back and kind of think about jazzing up and making things better for the folks. That is it for episode number 93, the 4x4 Risk Assessment Matrix. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We're going to continue on in the next couple of ones as in our risk assessment journey, we'll call it, looking at different ways that we're going to go back there, because we want to get the most bang for the buck with our time and effort along with the company time and effort. So episode number 93 is complete. My name is Dr. David Ayers. Thank you for joining me, and have a safe day.